Hey, NJ.com, Matt Arco with the State House Bureau. I'm here with Tom Moran of Star Ledger's editorial board. We just finished listening to Governor Christie's sixth State of the State address. There was a lot in there. Maybe I'll quickly go to Tom and ask Tom, what'd you think?
I thought he knocked it out of the park. I mean, here's a guy who's like 6 out of 10 New Jerseyans want him to quit. The legislature's in revolt. His poll numbers in New Hampshire are sagging. He's got a lot of us would be in a defensive crouch right now, and he came out very aggressively. He came out with some pretty interesting initiatives, the big one being on drug treatment, which he says one of the prisons he's going to shut down and turn it into a drug treatment place for inmates before they're released, so they get some treatment at least on their launch. And I thought, made a very effective, if sort of distorted, but politically effective attack on the Democrats' constitutional amendment to guarantee pension payments to public employees.
So I thought it was interesting. I mean, you're right. So Tom, you've been on the campaign trail with me as well. When we're talking about closing down a jail and turning it into a rehab facility for prison inmates who have drug addictions, that's something that he's kind of talked about on the campaign trail. And also sort of taking attacks or putting attacks against Democrats on pension reforms and things like that. I mean, that probably wasn't a surprise, right?
No, it was tougher than I expected it to be on pension because he has no actual role, as you know, in making a constitutional amendment, except to make the case again for voters to reject it. But what's interesting to me too is he endorsed himself a constitutional amendment to guarantee full pension payments because his bipartisan commission did, and then he endorsed their findings. So he was arguing against himself in that regard. But that commission very substantially said, first we'll do a bunch more benefit cuts, then we'll make a guarantee to meet the payments. So now we have to meet this much bigger payment.
So what did you think about his tone? Just in terms of straight news, the governor, he came out, he wasn't talking a lot about bipartisanship as much. I heard it a couple of times.
Yeah, a little.
But it was also a lot about, hey, I'm reviewing my record over the last 6 years, really. He went back and touted his accomplishments way back when. And then also sort of talked about a lot of what would be Republican cornerstones, said no to tax increases, charter schools, again, fighting unions. He mentioned the NGA got a name drop in there. Overall, I mean, is this a different State of the State speech in the sense that he's talking kind of less bipartisanship, working with the Democratic-controlled legislature?
Well, the stuff about how well New Jersey is going is addressed to New Hampshire. People who live in New Jersey know that's bunk. New Jersey's not doing well. And he would say things like, for example, we've cut our unemployment rate in half, but we lag behind the nation. I mean, Obama's a knucklehead because he can't fix the economy, but New Jersey, which has fixed less of its economy, is somehow he's a genius. I think all that stuff is going to fly by all New Jersey. That's all aimed at New Hampshire. But he did have a couple of bipartisan things in there. Charter schools, I would say, is not a conservative thing. A lot of Democrats support charter schools. And the drug treatment one.
Sure.
If you think about his political task now, he's got to please Republican-based voters and New Jersey Democrats. I mean, that's a pretty wide gulf. Where they have common ground is very few spots, but I'd say drug treatment is one of them. So he hit a sweet spot with that. Charter schools are probably another.
Yeah.
These are schools that in New Jersey have been very effective in the poorest cities at lifting performance, giving kids better opportunity. So
I should mention now, for anyone that's watching, we're inviting anyone to ask questions. So if you have questions for me about the speech, or if you have questions for our editorial board here. Tom, so you said it was a good speech. I mean, we all know that he's running a national campaign. He's in a tough Republican battle. What did you think overall? I mean, did he play to the folks that he needed to play to?
I don't think he has much of a hope in the presidential campaign, but I thought in New Hampshire, voters in polls identify, as you know, Matt, the heroin epidemic up there is even worse than down here.
Sure.
And people identified it for the first time as the #1 problem in New Hampshire, above the economy, as drug addiction. So that is aimed at both audiences. I mean, and he has made some progress in New Jersey on drug treatment. Although I have to say, there's a big fraudulent line he pitches that we need more drug treatment, we need to treat this like a disease. He's reduced spending, not increased it on drug treatment. And the number of people being admitted into drug treatment has dropped on his watch. Mm-hmm. And he's out there lying about that, frankly. But this $100 million investment seems to me, he has done a lot of cheaper things like the Narcan, that's a very important one, the drug that first responders can use when someone's in a heroin overdose. That has saved a lot of lives, doesn't cost any money. I mean, I think he genuinely wants to do something about this, but he's been broke. And now he says we'll spend $100 million. I have no idea where he's going to find that money. And Democrats are already saying, what? How are you going to fund that? You're going to stop making pension payments?
You were just downstairs. We caught you in the room for the Democratic rebuttal. What do the Democrats have to say?
They're very grouchy about the pension argument, but I think that the public will side with the governor on that, my bet is, because most people will perceive it as, why should we cut our education spending just to provide pensions, even though, to me, that's wildly unfair. We promised them this benefit. All the pension payments say is we should set money aside for it. If we don't set money aside, the payments are going to be astronomical. So it's really just a question of saving money for a commitment you already made. It's like paying your credit card bill. So he's framing it as a way of, are you for the public workers or are you for the regular middle class taxpayer? That might work, even though it's terrible government. But, so he was aggressive, I think, would be the byword on this. And he was not at all, I don't know, the guy doesn't play defense. He's like General Patton in World War II, it's always attack.
All right. Any questions?
What do you guys think was missing? Do you think that the public wanted to hear having him back in Jersey, that they didn't?
I don't know what the public wanted to hear, but the big thing that's missing is the most pressing crisis in New Jersey right now is the transportation system's falling apart. And the Transportation Trust Fund is due to go bankrupt in about 6 months. So there's no way to solve this without a tax increase. Even the Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey says that. They're not big on tax increases. And he can't say that because of the Republican primary. So our transit system continues to crumble, and we face potential catastrophe if one of the Hudson River tunnels breaks down. They're a century old. That breaks down, it's an economic disaster for New Jersey, and it's inexcusable how he has left us that vulnerable, and this speech did nothing to address transit. He just avoided the topic.
And this is interesting. So you're right. I mean, there was no mention of the Transportation Trust Fund in this speech, which we know is a serious issue. Where I mean, it's essentially bankrupt at this point because within 6 months they won't be able to pay their debt.
Right.
But he did mention the inheritance tax, which is interesting because for anybody that's in Trenton or listening to Trenton, we know that there was the possibility that a gas tax could be offset with changes in the inheritance tax. Did anything jump out I mean, it jumped out at me that he was mentioning it, but
right.
in the previous conversation that always had to do with the gas tax, so maybe
Right.
it would be like a net.
Yeah, that's been all the buzz. There's going to make a deal. There's going to be a deal. Well, you'll increase the gas tax and you'll cut the estate tax, and that's where they'll find common ground. But I don't even know how he could do that. I talked to Paul Sarlo, who's a Democrat, chairman of the Budget Committee, who's been big on cutting the estate tax himself. And I said, did you see that as a gesture to let's make that deal we had been discussing, gas tax for estate tax? And he said no. He won't go for an increase in the gas tax. So this could be something that we're just going to have to wait until the gears start grinding before he does something. Keep in mind, too, this budget isn't due until June 30th, and by then, Christie may have dropped out of the presidential race and be more free to make that kind of deal. I suspect that's what's going to happen.
Not bullish on his chances in the 2016 race.
I'm not bullish.
No. Do we have anything else? No? All right. Well, seeing nothing else, if Tom has nothing else to add, NJ.com, thanks so much for listening. Maybe next time we'll get more questions from you.
Yep, I never said I don't have more to add, just for the record. Read it in tomorrow's Star Ledger.
There you go. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone.
Take it easy.